Today we're going to hear from another podcaster who's doing much the same that we are for Christian school and other private school leaders. Let's hear from Mark today.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockoll, and today we get to confuse ourselves by having a second Mark with us in the chat. Mark Minkus. He is a former Christian school administrator. And there's no former. If you've done it, you're a Christian school administrator. It is what it is. If you've sweated those bullets, you walk with brothers and sisters for the rest of your life. He is also, as we're going to come to find out, a fellow podcast host. So, Mark, thank you for coming on today with us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm super excited to have this conversation. And yeah, you're right. Once you do it, you're kind of in it for life.
Yeah. People are going to talk to you about it. People are going to cry to you about it. People are going to ask you questions all about it, I'm sure. But we've said from the start, we felt as though we were filling a niche in Christian education for Christian school principals, administrators, heads of schools, because otherwise, podcasts like this just were not focused at us. And so I continue to go and look and see if somebody else has come up with this idea. To see if there's something else, perhaps just a little bit larger than that niche, and that's where I happened to come across Mark. Now, interestingly enough, as I read through Mark's biography, there's a lot of things that Mark and I share in common besides just our name. So we're both married, multiple daughters. We both have led the Christian school formerly. There is an Ocean City, New Jersey in Mark's life, where there is an Ocean City, Maryland in my life. College football is an obsession for Mark, whereas football in general, and for the Ravens, but college football for me. And Matt's not so much of an obsession for you, Matt. It's a pastime.
Yeah, it is. It's a pastime. I like it when they do well.
Yeah.
But, that's about where it ends.
I see Mark is wearing a Callaway golf shirt. Callaway, if you want to represent us in our conversations, feel free to jump on and give us lots of money. I heard that Callaway was a leading investor in Topgolf, and now Topgolf is not doing as well as Callaway would have wished. But some of the more scary things, he says that Coke Zero is a favorite. Mark, is Coke Zero still a favorite of yours?
Oh yeah, I'm not. My wife and I both actually. We're not coffee drinkers, and so for some reason, that's our thing. It became a thing at both schools that I worked at, and one was always nearby. Let's put it that way.
Nice. I'm also a huge fan of the Zero drinks, the Coke Zero, the Pepsi One, the Cherry Dr. Pepper Zero, and I just can't imagine what those are doing to my insides right now. All of those very non-existent chemicals.
Not going to worry about that.
Too many other things to consider.
I can't see it. It doesn't exist.
But of course, like I've noted before, he is the podcast host of the Private School Leader podcast. Mark, tell us more about the Private School Leader podcast.
Yeah, so back in November of 2020, I always say some people during COVID, they started making sourdough bread or, got a dog. I decided I wanted to start a podcast, and the Lord put it on my heart in some ways similar to Mark and Matt here, that there's this need. I've heard a quote that says the person you're best equipped to serve is the person you used to be. And so I used to be a struggling administrator. I'll get into kind of my low point in a few minutes, but it's sort of like I turned it around with God's help and some strategies. And so I'm thinking, okay, similar to what you said, Mark, I looked out there and there wasn't really anything. A lot of it was sort of the expert of the week, some big picture, almost the vibe of going to a conference and some keynote kind of a vibe. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I need to be telling them how not to quit their job. Like, how do we get out of bed when we want to pull the covers up over our head? What do we do when the parent that's screaming at us, their last name is above the gym door because they're the donor? Those kinds of practical things. And so it actually took 2 years of 5 hours a week, just plugging away. And then in October of 22 was the first episode, and now we're up to over 135 episodes. And what I underestimated, quite frankly, was the need. The response has been like man, I needed this. I didn't know anything like this existed, and apparently it didn't. And now the podcast is downloaded in 66 countries in all 50 states. And it's pretty cool when you think of, I think of it this way. My impact used to be 300 kids and a 7-acre campus, and now it's just equipping private school leaders all over the world to go and do this work.
Praise the Lord.
Wow, that's awesome. Tell us any other stats you want to throw out about your podcast right now. You said 66 countries, all 50 states, and you've been doing it for how long?
So October 22 was the first episode. I do one a week.
Okay, one a week.
And they drop Saturday mornings. It's on Apple. It's on, Spotify, those places. Get about 1,000 downloads a week, and just honestly get a lot of feedback, mail. I know we'll talk a little bit later about Thrive Academy, just trying to find ways to do one-to-many with putting that help out there that is very, very practical, but also actually doable. Because if it feels like a New Year's Day resolution or a quitting smoking cold turkey kind of a leap, no one's going to do it. But if it feels like, oh, wait, I could do that strategy and then multiply it by time, sort of the James Clear Atomic Habits mindset, that maybe I can see the difference. And then when people get some help from it, then they just keep listening. So that's kind of how the thing has grown.
Now, maybe you have a good handle on this, maybe you don't. Do you have a thought as to how many of your listeners are Christian school leaders versus are just secular private school leaders?
Yeah, I would say that, so one of the ways to know that number is so I do one-on-one coaching. So of my coaching clients, about 85% work at a religious school or a Christian school in particular. So Catholic schools, Episcopal schools, non-denominational Christian schools, or church schools. So like attracts like, and I while I'm not overtly Christian on the podcast, I think that it's pretty clear that I'm a person of faith. And so then, and then based on the feedback that I get, the name of the school of people who would buy Thrive Academy or buy Parent Academy, I'm guessing that it's around 75-80% are Christian schools, religious schools that are listening.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Well, I'm continuing to be blown away, even as on our podcast, of how many people are looking for this assistance. And we were just talking to another administrator who's putting it out there, and I'm really thankful for guys like you, Mark, that see this need, because we felt it. We all feel the need, and I know in our questions that we're going to throw at you, this is definitely going to be coming up, and we'll get into it. So I'm Mark Zockoll. Just so you know, I got my pen and I'm in that audience mode right now. Like I'm ready to soak it all up.
Let's take some
Let's
notes.
go.
And who Matt was referring to was Mr. Alan Hodak of the Minnesota Association of Christian Schools and his boot camp, his 2-day boot camp. So if we can get you hooked up with Mr. Alan Hodak and his 2-day boot camp for you, especially starting principles, we'd love to do that. Let us know. Send us the email. And between now and then, though, one of the things I also want to point out about something that Mark has mentioned is the alignment we have in seeing that rising tide float all boats and seeing the de-siloing of information concerning Christian school education in this time specifically, like in partnership with the Herzog Foundation, who wants to see Christian education flourish in the U.S. and really the world. And so let's take a moment here to pause and hear from the Herzog Foundation and what they can do to serve you and your school.
Are you ready to take your school's mission to the next level? This summer, the Herzog Foundation Institute invites Christian school administrators like you to join the transformative workshops designed to equip, inspire, and empower you for the coming school year. Why should you attend? Learn from top Christian education leaders, network with passionate peers from across the nation, gain practical strategies to strengthen your school's impact. Workshop locations vary throughout the year, but this summer and specifically in the month of July, you can find workshops in Dallas, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri. Spots are limited and filling fast. Visit herzogfoundation.com/institute to view workshop details and secure your seat today. Remember, it's free. Just get yourself there. Don't miss this opportunity to renew your vision, sharpen your skills, and lead your school with confidence. The future of Christian education starts with you. Sign up for a Herzog Foundation Institute summer workshop now.
All right, Mark, many of our listeners are carrying invisible burdens. I mean, it almost seems like they're visible because we all can easily see, the stresses, the anxieties, just exhaustion, or as we like to say on our podcast, the B word, that we don't say.
Don't say it.
Don't ever get it to the point of extreme exhaustion. But what were the early warning signs of serious stress within your own life as a head of school, and then what do you wish you'd responded to sooner?
Right. So thank you for that question. I think that private school leaders, Christian school leaders in particular, that we are flying down a highway and there's all kinds of signs, bridge out, icy road, every street sign you can think of that's warning, and we just mash the gas. And we just figure everything will be okay, like me and Mark with our mindset about Coke Zero. I don't think that's medically sound, but it's
I don't think so either.
And so
But
that's
it
why
tastes good going down.
it does. It does. It keeps me awake. So for me, I'm flying down the road and I'm just doing all the things that I just thought, well, this is my life now. In the 90s, I started in 92. This is what it is. I didn't have anything to compare to. And kept going and kept outworking every problem and just kept grinding and doing all the things. All the late nights, coaching basketball with pneumonia. We all have these things that we did that are like, why on earth would I do that? And so for me, the low point was March 2010. I'm laying on the bathroom floor at my house. I'm asking my wife, can you please take me to the emergency room? Because for 2 days, I couldn't keep anything down. I had been throwing up. I thought I had the stomach flu. Well, we go to the hospital. Lo and behold, I have 4 ulcers, 3 in my stomach, 1 in my esophagus. And the doctor says, do you have a stressful job? And it's like, okay. So the B word, and you can bleep it out later, but I think that one of the best definitions for burnout is it's the end state of chronic stress. Mm-hmm. And Christian school leaders, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, you are experiencing chronic stress. And it's not a matter of how much, it's a matter of that you are. And it's not a matter of if you're careening towards burnout, it's a matter of when are you going to get there, and are you going to do something about it before your body pulls the emergency brake? Mm-hmm. Because your body will always pull the emergency brake. I have a coaching client. I don't know if either of you have ever heard of oral neuropathy. It's also called burning mouth syndrome. And it's like someone has spicy food in their mouth 100% of the time. And it's caused by stress. And the only way to get rid of it is to have a less stressful job. And so my point is that with my coaching clients, it shows up a whole bunch of different ways, but it shows up. And so I think that the other thing about us ignoring those warning signs that we need to just mention is that in America, we have this toxic hustle culture where entrepreneurs are glamorized. And Gary Vaynerchuk talks about starting your next business between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m., that's when you're going to find the time to do that. And it equates rest and sleep with laziness. I think that that's really, really toxic.
Especially for the Christian, right?
Right. And so if we think about it from an idol standpoint, an idol is something that replaces God. But, it could never be that my Christian school and my work at the Christian school could be an idol. And I would be like, are you sure? Are you sure you're sure? And I just wish that I had responded sooner. And for me, it was like extreme exhaustion and emotional numbness and disinterest at work and disinterest at home and like a brain fog and just kind of being, not with it. And, I wish I had responded sooner. But the last thing I'll say on this is that I was ashamed and embarrassed to talk to anybody about it. And I had no idea what to do about it. And I just, like I said, figured, I guess this is my life now.
You just keep going. Yeah.
I think about the Sabbath day and what God means for that to be for us, which is why I interjected earlier with, Christians just how inappropriate it would be for a Christian to, in the long run, not remember that about what God has created us to be and how He's created us to function. And that's I don't care, work harder. You know what the line from Animal Farm and the draft horse there. Like none of that. That's not represented. That's different.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with my teachers at orientation where I just wrote the word sleep on the board. And I'm like, you know what? We're not going to overlook this one this year. Like, you guys need this. It's a simple thing. But even we as administrators, I think we get to a point where we feel like perhaps we can't necessarily address that with our teachers. You know, they're responsible for their own physical well-being. Well, no, we have that responsibility too, which I think adds to our stressors as well. So yeah, definitely if we need to be paying attention to it for our teachers, all the more reason we need to be paying attention to it for ourselves.
Mark, quick question for you as a follow-up to the first. When it will be by default a stressful job. Well, let's say I'm a CEO somewhere. I'm going to have stress there too. Let's say I'm working the lines as a lineman. I'm going to have stress there too. I'm a cafeteria lady in the same school. I got stress too. Mark, why is the stress of a Christian school administrator different stress, or what makes it different, or is it really not that much different, but it's just ever present? What would you say about that?
So yeah, I have really strong feelings about this. So most of us came up through the classroom as educators. Then we became principals or heads of school. And so then this whole half of the teacher side, the curriculum side, the classroom management, coaching up teachers, we get that. But then there's this whole part of our job that we don't understand. Finance, facilities, fundraising, retention, recruitment, marketing, PR. But we're supposed to be able to do all of that stuff. That's the first thing. The second thing is how complex our job is, and also that we have clients and not customers. If customers go someplace else, okay, whatever, but it's like the stakes are high. We're working with children, and so parents are more anxious, in my opinion, in 2025 than they've ever been in my career, which started in 1991, okay? And when I would come home and vent to my wife or vent to my daughters, especially my middle daughter, Hannah, she would be like, well, Dad, just tell the parent no. And I'm like, you don't get it. We have to figure it out. It's like, do we do check-ins with this child, and then once a week an email and all of the things. And oh, by the way, while you're doing that, you can't throw your teachers under the bus. You want to have their backs.
Yeah.
You don't want to overpromise to the parent and then go to the teacher and say, hey, I need you to do this and this. And so I just think there's so many competing priorities. It's all wrapped in hopes and fears and anxieties, and we're supposed to get it right every time.
We all get mugs, right? One of the mugs I got most recently was being a principal is like riding a bike, and the bike is on fire, and the street is on fire, and the world is on fire. That's what being a principal is like, something along those lines. And I kept that. I don't drink coffee, as we talked about earlier. It's Coke, but I kept that mug. That mug is still around me somewhere because I just, it does seem to be that way. But then I also try to balance it with, but the Lord has given me the strength I need to get through this in Him. So I have to keep focus on Him. And then there's that ever-present, even spiritual pull, that spiritual tug of He's strengthened me for the work at hand, but I need to take care of the body that He has strengthened me with to execute this plan. All right, Mark, well, you answered one of our original questions and a follow-up, and you did so well. Thank you so much for your thoughts there. Let's go to another question here. You created Thrive Academy. Tell us a little bit about Thrive Academy, but then can you walk us through a practical tool or framework from that program, from Thrive Academy, that's been very helpful for the coaching that you talk about doing?
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about this. So I mentioned the one-to-many, and it's like, so one-on-one coaching, I can only coach so many clients. So I thought, okay, if I took everything I learned in 33 years and put it into a digital online course that is asynchronous with watch a video, you got your guided notes, you've got your habit tracking calendars, this and that, then someone could do it at 9 p.m. in their pajamas on the couch, and it doesn't have to be you get on a plane and go to a conference, or that you show up live for a webinar that doesn't have a replay, or et cetera. And so Thrive Academy is a digital course, as I mentioned. It's got 7 teaching modules. There's a total of 39 lessons. and the video content adds up to about 9 hours of content, but it's broken down into about 15 to 20 minute lessons. So it's kind of one of those books you can pick up and put down. That was my goal. And so what I really think about the most, when I think about the most important thing that you can learn, and Mark, I'm really glad that you used the word framework in your question. What framework inside Thrive Academy can help? Because here's what's going on with private school leaders, with Christian school leaders. They have intentions, they have desires to like make it better, or to be more organized, or to be less stressed, but they don't have a framework. They don't have a plan. And so then they're just grasping, and then they just show up for work the next day, and we run it back and we run it back. And then all of a sudden we've been doing it for 20 years the same way. And so, my analogy is your hair's on fire while playing whack-a-mole with one hand and a fire extinguisher in the other hand. That's what it's like to be a Christian school leader. So here's the key word. If you're listening to this, I want you to capture this word, and that's margin. You have no margin in your life as a Christian school leader, and you need to create margin. And you're like, well, yeah, that's great. Okay, well, I'm going to give you the framework, because the key, in my opinion, the most opportunity is in your email inbox. Our relationship with our email inbox, about 90% of us, is absolute worst practice when it comes to productivity and time management. And so I would say two big things that I want to say about your email inbox. Number one, your email inbox is where productivity goes to die. That's a fact. And number two, ready? You guys ready? You got your seatbelts on?
Got my pen.
I already believe number one, so go ahead.
Okay. Your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities. Your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The reason that we're addicted to our email inbox is that our brain is conspiring against us, because it's called the productivity trap. So I want you to think about this. You're out and about in your school. You're solving problems. You're interacting with people. You're checking on this teacher. Parent pops into the lobby, blah, 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 all the things. And you're gone for 40 minutes. You come back, you plop down at your desk, a little bit of decision fatigue, little physical fatigue. You've spent some emotional energy, and you've got some cognitive load that's going on there. And your brain is screaming for a dopamine hit. And the way you can get dopamine is to feel productive. And so 95% of school leaders open up their email inbox and start going through a few emails. Does that sound right?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I get behind that. Sure.
Okay. Now, here's the problem. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a high value task and a low value task, and you get the same dopamine hit if you do something really important or if you go through a few emails. So of course you're going to go through a few emails. And so then the framework, and I want you to suspend your disbelief for a minute, those of you that are listening, is that you're actually only going to check email 3 times a day. You're going to have a scheduled time mid-morning, a scheduled time mid-afternoon, and a scheduled time near the end of the day when you're going to check email, and then you're going to stay out of your email inbox the other times. So think about it. If you're only doing email, you can get so much more done because you get into flow and so on and so forth. And I get it. I did it for 33 years. I know all about interruptions, and I know all about Mike Tyson said that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? Okay. That's another thing we could get on your mugs, Mark, about school principles. But here's my point. We need to create friction between you and your email inbox while you build self-discipline to stay out of your email inbox. So I'll give you a quick example. My wife knows that I love Oreos. I don't know why she keeps buying Oreos. Probably because she loves me, all right? Party-sized thing of Oreos shows up. It's on the table, and so every time I walk through the kitchen, then I was eating 3 Oreos every time. And what I wanted to do was to eat 3 Oreos per day, okay? Now, the good timing is that we had just cleaned out our Tupperware cupboard, which is that could be a whole episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so the next time, so a week later, she bring another party-sized Oreos, okay? And I'm like, okay, put it inside the cupboard. It's 18 inches above where it was sitting the week before. But that pause was all I needed. The friction was all I needed to eat 3 Oreos a day instead of 3 every time I walk through. We know about creating friction. Okay. So how do I do that with my email inbox? I'll tell you real quick. Two strategies. Number one, I'm going to put Matt and Mark on the spot. When you push the button and your phone lights up, how many swipes to get to your school email icon?
That's a good question.
Pass my password. It's one. It's password, and I got my Outlook app, and boom, I'm there.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I coach people, I ask them to move it at least one swipe, but preferably two swipes. And anecdotally, clients who move their email icon two swipes are checking it 80 to 85% less often outside of school hours just by doing that one thing. In fact, I have a client named Kim in Iowa at a Christian school, and she, because she's super smart, replaced the spot on her phone where the icon was for school with her Bible app.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
she's out playing catch with her son in the yard, whatever. And every time she looks at her phone, there's Bible verses on her phone because her thumb was hitting it without even thinking.
Yeah.
And she was in and out of
great.
it all day. The second strategy, real quick, is that everyone has either a Google Chrome icon at the bottom of their screen, or Safari or Firefox, whatever your system is. So let's say it's Google Chrome. You hover over that, a thing pops. You right click. It says New Window. You open a new window. All right, now there's two little squares at the bottom of your screen. You open only your email inside that square, the new window. You go into the one with all the tabs open and you close your email, because we know the parentheses, we know how many, we know what that number was the last time we looked, okay? But we're creating friction. We're putting the Oreos in the Tupperware cupboard, and you will find with those two steps that you'll check email way less often, and you'll be more likely to stick to your times. And then the last thing is don't feed the beast, which is then you have to talk to your staff about, well, yeah, I'll get back to you, because you've been feeding the beast and lowering their resilience. Because when you respond at any time of day or night, I call that feeding the beast. That's what they're going to expect from you forever. So there's multiple positive layers, and that's one strategy in one module of Thrive Academy. But you need a framework to latch onto so that you can actually do it rather than have good intentions that don't happen.
Oh, Matt doesn't need any help not answering his emails or texts. So, Matt, you are allowed to listen to this.
I feel like I'm doing pretty good in this one.
Good for you. Good for you, Matt.
But I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness there, buddy.
Well,
but no, I appreciate that, though, Mark. Serious. Yes, absolutely.
The big thing, definitely, and I don't know if you've seen or read the book "Eat That Frog,"
Yes.
but that's kind of the thing that came for me, is that quick dopamine hit of, oh sweet, I don't have any unread emails. Like, yes, I've conquered something, but in the reality, like I know when I'm accessing my email, I'm accessing it because I've got to write that email to a parent that I don't want to write. And so I make myself feel better rather than actually doing the thing I have to get done.
Yep.
Well, I'll also say that my inbox was a place of the first physical stress I remember coming from the job was opening my inbox because of what I was receiving from certain persons. I didn't have that same physical stress related like attack. I say it's not. I don't know what a panic attack is. I haven't felt one of those before. But whatever it is on the way to a panic attack, or whatever it is on the way to a stress-induced whatever, that was my first pang of it in my chest, is when I would open my inbox, and it stuck with me and is even there a little bit now in a place of being removed from that position. And that was eye-opening to me. And hearing you say this, I should have heard this far earlier.
Yeah, it's not even opening the email. You just see that you got an email from that person, and you're automatically in that place.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And,
It could be
and the
praise,
one thing I want to add, Mark, is you talked about this low-level stress that's just under the surface, okay? That is there because cortisol and adrenaline is being pumped into your brain because of that stress. And I encourage both of you and all of your listeners at some point, just Google long-term cortisol impact on the body, and then ask yourself some hard questions.
Is it like long-term Coke Zero impact on the body? Because I don't think I want.
Listen, we are choosing to reject one part of our reality and replace it with our own reality.
That is awesome.
This is not a one size fits all.
Thank you, Mark. You know, Mark, I really think this is one podcast has become two.
Yeah,
so at
it
some
definitely
point,
has.
We're definitely going to have to record a few things differently. But thank you so much for coming on, for being with us.
Mark, obviously through this conversation, or I should maybe say these conversations, you have definitely, to our listeners, become somebody that we want to hear from a lot. So how can our listeners connect with you?
Thank you for asking that, Matt. So as far as the podcast, and I try and keep it practical and similar to what Matt and Mark here are doing. And so just wherever you listen to podcasts, just look up the Private School Leader podcast. Tried to keep it real simple, like snakes on a plane. You know, it's like the Private School Leader podcast. That there it is.
That's right.
And then as far as the website, theprivateschoolleader.com, and then with Thrive in particular, privateschoolleader.com/thrive. But if you go to the website, it'll all be there across the top. And there's a parent academy there too that also has PDs for teachers. And so there's some stuff there that is just the practical, where the rubber meets the road. How do I do this? And to Mark's point, it's like, we all know this stuff, but how do we do it? That's really my passion, is to get people to take action and to latch onto a framework and do little things that multiplied by time will make a big difference. So Private School Leader podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and the privateschoolleader.com. Check out the website, and there's a lot of resources there for you.
Awesome.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Once again, we're happy to build this community. And your time has been a blessing to share with our listeners. And you'll be hearing from us in the future, I'm sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I appreciate what you two are doing. We found a need, and we're trying to, in our spare time, quote unquote spare time, meet that need. So keep up the good work, and I'll be praying for you and your podcast. And thanks again for having me on.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate you, Mark. All right. Have a good one, Mark.
Bye-bye.
It is time for the Christian Administrator Spotlight. And for this episode, we're going to shout out Chris Hobbs.
All right, Chris Hobbs. He is the head of school at Indian Rocks Christian School there in Florida, way down there in Largo, Florida. And Mr. Hobbs, we've noted Dr. Hobbs before on this episode as one that you should reach out to and find more about because of his social media being exceptionally positive. So you can see the YouTube short we made about him and what it is that he does down at Indian Rocks. And we are excited to have made his acquaintance. And then we're going to be hearing from Dr. Hobbs in a little bit when he comes on the podcast as a guest. Get some of that positivity coming in this way. Dr. Hobbs is the son of a Mr. and Mrs. Hobbs who I was able to work with at Seaside Christian Academy. And what a wonderful legacy that family has, including this head of school at Indian Rocks, a school that is self-claimed to have the largest social media following for a Christian school, which I suppose we can find that out, but we'll talk about that when it comes on. But I'm gonna go ahead and pray for you now, Dr. Hobbs, and we will go to the Lord and seek His face concerning you and your ministry there. Father in heaven, thank you for those around us whose glasses are continually full. We know that all of our glasses are continually full because we have your Savior, our Savior, your Son, Jesus Christ. And may we, as needed, remind ourselves of the same, and we thank you for your servants who are able to do so. You have empowered to do so with their personality and the way they move about their lives so uniquely. We love you for it. We thank you for him. Bless his ministry there at Indian Rocks. Amen.
Amen. And that's going to do it for this first part, but you definitely want to stick around for the next part with our conversation with Mark Minkus.
All right. Thanks for growing with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.